Na 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 na. Got get that feeling.
Hello, loves. It's me, Sunshine. Yay. I have an amazing sister soul goddess coming on tonight. Let's bring her on. Yay.
Hello.
Hello. What is happening, love?
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you are so welcome. So we met on Instagram, right? And we had a little tea on my porch, and we became fast sisters. And I was like,
Mhm.
you should be on the podcast. And here you are.
And here I am. Yeah, the universe works in beautiful ways.
Yes, yes. So tell us about your journey on just being who you are.
Okay, where do I start? I guess at the beginning.
Yes, please. We have an hour, so take your time.
Okay, beautiful. So I am Sister Soul. My legal name is Cassidy Santoro, and I am a priestess, a shaman. I also am a teacher of different spiritual art forms and a practitioner of many different modalities. And it all kind of began for me at around 3 years old. I started to leave my body and have different astral experiences. And then at 4, I started to communicate with people that had passed. And at that age, I didn't realize that they had passed. And kind of sharing that with my family and kind of realized I was different very early on. And as I got a little bit older, around 5 and 6, I started performing different kinds of what would be known as miracles. Um, and from there, my gifts really grew because I connected with them so deeply and I practiced. I didn't know at the time that I was practicing, but every day uh, when I would first wake up, I'd usually wake up, spirit would wake me up between like 12 and 3 in the morning. And I remember my parents would kind of be worried that I'd, not sleep. But
Right.
for me, I was working and I was doing my own kind of practice. And then when I get home after school, I remember just spending hours outside and talking with the fairies and talking with different nature spirits and really connecting with the earth in a way that I didn't see many other people doing.
Mhm.
And so I kind of embraced my differences in my life. And I would say about 19 was my first big spiritual awakening of sorts. I started to really have these very vivid experiences. And even though I was communicating with spirit when I was younger, I think it's important to note I didn't know people were dead. And so I would see them in physical form and just think that they were people that were
Right.
in the room with me or people
Right.
that were in other spaces. And so I didn't know how to differentiate that early on. But as I got older and practice, I realized, okay, that's obviously there's not a man from the 1800s in my room in colonial dress, right? Um, and so at 19, I started having really vivid experiences that were a little bit alarming for me, or rather, I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't have the toolkit at that time. My family was supportive to an extent. My friends also were supportive to an extent. And so I started to seek out, or rather just kind of asking the universe to provide some kind of teacher, some kind of person that could come into my life and just give me some answers.
Mhm.
And I met with a shaman at 19 who shared with me after I had a session with her. And I was seeing everything she was seeing. as she was doing work on me, as she was in the astrals. And when we came out of that trance state, she shared with me like that isn't common for people to have the same experiences as she had. She had had 35 years of training to be
Right.
she was, and she kind of asked me like, what do you do, why were you there with me? um and so what I think I paid for an hour session ended up being 6 hours of us just
Wow.
really diving, asking questions. And um from that point on, so from 19 to about 23, I was kind of lost. Even though I felt like I had an answer, it wasn't really clear. I didn't really have like, okay, now this is the next step.
Right.
And so again, it was that internal practice and connecting with the earth and having teachers kind of come in and out, but didn't really find my actual mentor until about uh, maybe 24. And from there, I started to learn other modalities of healing. So I learned Reiki, I learned sound healing, I learned about different vibrational aspects and how sound moves through the body. And so I got to experience really what I'd always been seeing and what I always knew to be true. So that was really powerful to me to finally have a toolkit and like a
Right.
standardized practice of how to do
Mhm.
things. Like that was just mind blowing for me. Um, and from there, yeah, I just kind of dove right in and I said, or I agreed, I guess.
Ah.
Spirit said, Spirit said, this is what you're going to do full time now. Like this wisdom that you have, these abilities that you have since you're younger, they were not for no reason. The reason is you're meant to teach them and share them with as many people as you can. And while that seemed a little bit nerve-wracking at first, I started to realize, even in certain trainings that I took, that I was, again, different in a good
Right.
way, but that I had something of value that I could really share with people that wasn't just energy healing, that wasn't just mediumship. Um, and so I started to really play with that and found, again, other modalities, traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism, plant medicine, and kind of found other allies to support that kind of second awakening that I had. So at around 24, I left my, I was pursuing social work. And so I left that sphere and decided to jump in full time into spiritual work. And making that transition wasn't easy, but I'm so glad I did it because, and even I'm so glad I got the education in social work because it allowed me to understand human behavior and
Mhm.
psychology, which is so closely connected to energy and
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
Um, and how to really work with people and how to support them through changes and transitions in their life. And so I became a teacher of different spiritual art forms. I call it shamanic healing, but that's kind of a broad term. It's again the spirit and energy kind of mixed in with different earth work and magic. Um, and so I've been now a teacher of that for almost 6 or 7 years, and I'm practicing that as well with clients and in one-to-one and group settings. And so that's kind of been the bulk of what I do now. It kind of all makes sense now looking back. At the time,
Right.
none of it did. um, but it's been a beautiful journey, and I'm thankful for all of the connections I made thus, through all of that.
Right.
And even my husband I met 4 years ago at a crystal shop. I did a little spell on a new moon, and I said to the universe, I have everything that I desire. I have the dream life or the dream career that really fulfills my soul. I
Right.
have my practices that I feel really strong in mentally, physically, and spiritually. I have a good relationship with family members that I really worked hard to cultivate and to cut people out that I didn't feel were supporting me, and then bring more people in that I felt really were nurturing.
Yeah.
And I said to the universe, the only thing I don't have is somebody to do this with. And so I remember literally looking up to the sky and being like, so that's your test, like if you can deliver that, then I'll be really in shock and I'll be in such a deeper service. And 2 days later, I walked into a fairy workshop
Yeah.
at a crystal store, and yeah, my husband walked in and I'm like, he's the one. He's
Oh,
the
I
one.
love
Okay, he's the
that.
one. And he
So
felt it too. And yeah, we've been together ever since. We have a beautiful son, and we now own a business together where we kind of combine our practices. He's been studying the occult, different art, magic, and kind of like that deep spirituality that I
mm,
never really tapped into, I would say, or didn't study. I guess that's a better way to put it. I don't read
yeah.
books. um I
Stuff
listen
that you
to
already
some
know.
podcasts. Yeah, it kind of like ruins my channel, I found over the
Yeah.
years. If I absorb too much information,
Mhm.
then that becomes like my new truth, and it just fogs me. So he's the guy that studies and reads and does
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it's a really good balance between
Balance.
both of
Yeah,
us.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. I'm the same way. I Too much information is not good
Yeah.
for me. So, and most of the time I already know, right?
Right, that's how I
Yeah.
feel. It doesn't My intuition is so much stronger than, and sometimes even I've found, like, when I read books, I'm like, I knew this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, okay, like I just was thinking that and now it's in front of me. So
Now
it's
it's there.
validating, but yeah, I feel can be a little clogging at times.
Right, right. So what were the miracles that you were performing at 5 or 6 years old, that you said?
Yeah, so I guess the one that's really stands out to me is and I think I shared this with you actually. My cat at the time had brought in a present for me,
Oh, that's
a
right. Yes, you
a
did.
bird.
Yeah,
Yes, it was a dead bird, and this cat would always leave it behind the couch, and I would get really upset because that was kind of scary to see as a child, to see death in that way.
right,
And so I took the bird and I put the bird in a box, and I was praying over the bird, and my mom kind of, was rushing out of the house, and she's like, we have to go. We were picking up my friend from school. I guess I had a half day that day and she didn't. And so I told my mom, what, we have to save this bird. And I'm explaining to her it's possible. Like, can I just hold the bird while we drive there and we'll let it out in front of the church? And she's like looking at me like, I don't know about that. She's like, let's
right,
poke holes in the top. She's like, but you can't hold the box. It's going to be in the trunk. And I remember getting very upset and kind of carrying on a little bit. And the whole time she's kind of like looking at me, like trying to have a conversation about death, right? Trying to prepare her child, like, it's not going to happen. You can pray all you want, but this is a reality. And
right.
I told her, like, you're wrong. That bird there's still life in that bird. And obviously its neck was broken. It was
Yeah,
bloody. So it really, looking at it, it didn't have that chance. But I prayed and I sent that bird energy the entire car ride, which probably was only 10 minutes, realistically. And we pulled up and I opened the trunk, and my mom's like, kind of slow moving, like, oh
yeah,
man, I'm gonna
yeah.
have to explain this. And we opened the trunk, we opened the box, and the bird kind of fluttered a little bit and flew out. And I remember her face was like, there was real shock there, even a little bit of fear, I would say.
Yeah,
And so from that point on, I knew I couldn't share those things with other people. And so I called them experiments. But I would find animals or bugs or whatever I could find that as a 6-year-old,
Yeah.
something that had passed and was kind of on that cusp of life and death. And I was able to revive them, and it happened multiple times. But anytime I would share that, even with friends, or like, oh, come, this is so cool. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
People would just be like, their faces, like that was something that stuck with me. Like, oh, okay, I did something wrong.
Right. Right.
So that was kind of my first experience with, we do have these we all have these abilities. I don't think I was special. I think I just really tapped into it.
Mhm.
Looking back, I think it was mostly related to traumas that I experienced as a young child that activated all of this within me.
Mhm.
Um, but we all have immense power within us to bridge the gap between the multiple realms and dimensions. And I think a lot of people are still very much in fear
Yes.
of, what does that mean then? What are the
Yeah.
repercussions of that? What's the karma of that? Or yeah, so I kind of knew from an early age there were things I could share with people. There were things I really could not, you
Yeah.
know. Um yeah, I've even in recent years have kind of practiced that again, and I noticed for myself it's not as easeful as it was when I was younger. There was some innocence there, less
Yeah.
shame,
Yes.
less fear even of myself. That now it becomes such a ritual and a practice to try to do the things that I did so easily as a child.
Yeah. I love that. So beautiful.
Yeah.
So what do? You do rituals and stuff? I know I went to one on Saturday.
Yes. Yeah, I do. So in my work, it's pretty varied. So I'll do, like, let's say for one-to-one work with people, different rites of passage, different ceremonies. For instance, for children that are just, or rather female children that are just about to bleed, taking them through that menstruation rite.
Okay.
Um, for women who are either looking to get pregnant, are pregnant, had been pregnant and are no longer, walking them through that and what that kind of transition is, as well as marriage ceremonies, funeral services, things like that. Baptisms I've done, and that's kind of more my priestess work, I would say.
Okay.
Those rituals and ceremonies, and then my shamanic work, I do all types of things. I do um removal of ancestral binds. I see them as, some people see them as curses, but I see them just as things that we carry until somebody chooses not to carry it
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
I do exorcisms and extractions. So if there's other really deep rooted things that need to be pulled out of somebody's body that typically will manifest as a disease or an illness, I'm able to remove that. So I found a lot of people find me when they're very sick,
Mm.
when they've just been diagnosed with something, when they're going through a big life transition, or when they really need some kind of empowerment and inspiration to continue in this life. Um, and then I'll also do different kind of women's work, which is what you experienced this weekend.
Yeah.
And that is through a mix of different elements, but I really love to bring other people together. I think that's something that I found in the last few years. And even through teachings, I found I really enjoy working with groups of people. And I don't really enjoy being the spotlight. I love seeing what other people can bring into a space and the magic that can be created when we work as a group,
Right.
and help each other evolve
Yeah.
and bring our own like unique codes, to a situation or an experience.
Yeah.
So I love doing that work. That's like, if I could do more of that for the rest of my life, I'll be very happy.
Ah.
Yeah.
We are all magical, Vicky. We're all
Yes.
magical, right? We are all
Yes.
here to nourish and inspire each other.
Hmm.
Yay. I love it. So what do you have planned for this? That's a different group, right? Called what do you call that? Your group?
Sisters Rising.
Sisters Rising. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so this summer, so we started it last year. And when I say me, I say me in spirit, me and the goddess that comes in many different forms.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, last winter I started having visions of a group of women that I didn't know chanting and dancing and shaking and moving, and I was like, that looks cool. Like,
Ah.
okay, spirit, how are you gonna do that? Like, who are these people? And then over time, I started to become clear. Some of them I knew on the internet. And I reached out and I just said, would you be interested? And they're like, yes. And so last year we had about nine or eight or nine different women that came in and facilitated different things and co-created that community. And we continued until we did a little bit in the fall and the winter, but kind of took a big break in that deep winter period because I think as women and just as healers, we need to go through our own death
Yeah.
portal,
Yes,
and
yes, yes,
so
yes.
we all felt like let's pause on the group work, let's do our own inner work, and
Mhm.
come springtime when the earth is alive again, we can start. And
Yeah,
so this past weekend was our first offering that we did, and we'll have one once a week now until end of September, early October, and over 20 different facilitators coming in offering so many different things from nutrition to holistic health to tarot and dance, and other kinds of energy healing modalities, and then like medicine making, herbalism. You're gonna be there and doing
yeah,
a inner child healing, which I'm really excited about.
yes.
Yeah, so it's just growing, it's organic, and I found in my life that when things are working, to trust that. When it
Right,
feels easy and comfortable, to trust that and to do more of that. So that's what
definitely.
Sisters Rising has been. It's been a blessing and a gift.
I love that. And it's so important to step back and allow things to happen, don't
Mm.
chase it, just make it happen, let it make it happen. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yay. So, Victoria mentioned that she wanted to ask a question. So, if anybody has any questions for Sister Soul, ask away. So fun. So, what else have you been doing? You offer in your home?
So I offer out of a family home in
Okay.
Rockville Center. It's my mom's home. She has a beautiful space, a lot cleaner than mine. I have a toddler. Um, so she's so wonderful. She allows me to use her space. And then I also do a lot of outdoor work. I personally love being immersed in the elements. And so I'll take my clients. I have a little spot right by I guess it would be called a pond, but it's a very big pond. And it's right at the edge of a pond underneath some linden trees, and there's an eagle's nest across the way. And that spot's held me through many different times in my life. And so I love bringing people there to just feel the energy. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I
I
love that.
actually I have a pond across the street from me, and I was actually just talking about that today. There's
Hmm.
actually a vortex there, and I bring
Ooh.
people there. Yeah, it's so amazing. Beautiful. Victoria, when is the next gathering?
Ooh. It's Wednesday, this
It-
coming Wednesday.
And it's on your Instagram, right?
Yes, yeah, so you can find it, on Sister Soul. I tag a lot of stuff on there, but on the top of my bio, there's also a link to Sisters Rising that you can click on. It's a separate page that'll kind of give you a little more insight and let you feel the energy for what we're creating. And I think today posted the schedule. So pretty much all of the dates are up from now until end of September for that.
Yeah. So now, when you were young and you saw spirit and everything, did people ask you if you were, think that you were crazy, that you
Hmm.
had, some type of diagnosis?
Yeah, so it's funny. I in a lot of my classes I say like we don't say the C word because there's so much stigma around it. I
Yeah,
think a lot of people who are intuitives and healers were called crazy. We were
right,
meant to feel crazy. That
right,
was kind of like a propaganda that kind of happened in many of our lives. So yeah, I definitely experienced that when I first opened up. I remember at 4 years old, the first experience I had, I saw my grandmother's sisters who I guess passed, had to be 20 plus years before I was even born.
right,
And just in sharing that with her, she was very conservative Irish Catholic. Was very concerned and asked, my mom to bring me to the church and asked me to, go to confession, but also see what the priest had to say about these gifts that I thought I had, you know. And I did go to Catholic school for 17 years. Even some of the colleges I chose ended up being Catholic just because I got scholarships there. It wasn't
right,
a
right,
preference. But yeah, I had a lot of people like try to intervene at many times in my life, thinking like, whoa, she's gone off the deep end,
right,
even when I left social work and said like, no, I'm gonna do this full time, a lot of people were like, why would you do that? Like, do the solid 9 to 5, do this as a side hustle. um and what I found is I need to be fully in this energy all the time
yeah,
to be able to receive the messages that I receive, to be able to get as deep as I go. If I was worrying about a caseload of 30 people or, you know, stuff like that is very mundane, very 3D to worry about. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I think I've had a lot of times in my life where people questioned who I was, what I was doing. Um, and I just have gotten now to a point, probably even within the last 5 years, where I just say, I don't need anybody else to validate my life and my experience. I'm not for everyone. I know that. um, my work doesn't resonate with everyone, and that's okay because there's literally 8 million people on Long Island.
right,
There's 8 billion people in the world. There's going to be somebody for everyone
right,
because we, like you said, we are all magic. We do have amazing gifts, all of us, that are special for us. And
right.
the people that need us and our exchange of energy will find us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I love every minute of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah. Now, did you at one point, I know I went into a deep depression. Have you
Mhm.
experienced that yourself?
Yeah. Definitely had many like void periods in my life where I even questioned, why am I here?
Right.
Why was I given these gifts? Like at a young age, it felt like a curse. It didn't feel like a gift. It felt
Yeah.
like a really big burden because I couldn't even express it. The only person that or thing that knew about what I did was my journal,
Right.
and the few friends that I could talk to about it. But even that, it was always like, yeah, you're the witchy one. You're into that stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
So very surface level with a lot of people, um, which is a very lonely, it's a very isolating, lonely experience to have.
Yeah.
And so in the last few years, I've made it a mission of mine to connect with other people that have gone through this, that are living this, to just normalize and validate for myself like I'm not alone, and I never actually was,
Right.
yeah. But it can be almost daunting a little bit at times to be one foot in the spiritual world, but then still have to live in this human life and
Yeah.
existence,
Yeah.
I can definitely be jolting sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And
I manage it, I think, well.
yeah. And it's beautiful that you have a partner that
Mm,
is, just as magical as you are, to
yeah.
share that experience with and be able to speak to him,
Mm,
about all the beautiful things that you do all day, right?
yeah, that's such a relief for me to not feel worried or have to censor or filter myself,
Right.
to just be fully me. And I think actually my husband has helped me a lot in that aspect of like, even when I felt like, oh, I'll come home and I'll be like, this experience is really shitty. He's like, well, you deserve better. So the universe is aligning that for you. It's like,
Right.
you're
Ah!
right.
I
So
love
he's kind
it.
of like very much empowering and inspiring for me in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
yeah. I love that. Mary Teresa, she wrote, caring for Avery, dear friend. She's sleeping, but I know she could hear me besides him. How can she help her?
So I think, as she said, telling her it's okay to go, I think that is so profound because a lot of people don't have not even one person to say it's okay, you
Right.
know, or to even understand what's really going on and how beautiful that transition
Oh
is.
my goodness.
We
It's
see it as so sad, and we're more, especially if it's somebody we love, or mourning. But for the person that's experienced it, it is so euphoric and
mhm.
blissful and elevating for their soul. So to not only tell them it's okay, but I would even suggest some kind of, and it doesn't have to be a real ritual, but something where you can connect with her energy. Because even if she is sleeping, she's still very much awake and aware
Right.
spiritually, So to even have those conversations a little bit deeper of how beautiful that transition is going to be for her and
Yeah.
how much love she's going to feel, and to step into that love and to welcome and embrace that love and not fear it.
Yeah.
I think to tell the body, our body listens, our
Right.
cells hear us,
Yeah.
so even if she might not respond, her actual physical vessel is going to interpret the message as it needs to.
Yeah. I'm actually end of life doula also.
Mm,
So even just do a meditation with her and connect her to spirit, her loved ones that have already passed, and have them
yes.
take her, bring her home.
Mm,
It's such a beautiful thing.
mm.
Such a beautiful thing to transition to the
It is. It
yeah,
is. There's nothing to fear. I think we have been conditioned to fear that experience, but
definitely.
when you're there and you're on that edge, I think it's amazing to just fully step into that,
Yeah.
and to have the courage to step into it,
Yeah.
with the guidance. So I think
Guidance.
if you're around anybody who's passing, like that goes back to that connection, that intuitive connection. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that you're there in a room with that person. There's a reason you're called to be in a room with that person, because that person's spirit is reaching out to you in the
Yeah.
ethers and asking for it.
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing. And Mary, hold her hand,
Mm,
touch her, love her, and just let her know that she's safe and you're ready to let her go. It's such a beautiful thing.
yeah, and
Yeah.
even some music too that can be kind of uplifting would be
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And even, scents, put on, light
Mm,
her favorite candle scent or incense, whatever. Just surround her with things that she loves.
yes.
Yeah, beautiful. Any more questions? That was a good one, right? I love
Yeah.
that. So have you helped a lot of people pass love?
Um, I would say I've been in the room for about 3, but the actual process beforehand, talking with family and kind of counseling them through that.
Yeah,
If people are aware of a diagnosis and then find me shortly after, especially if it's a terminal illness, we
right,
might be working together for, a few months before they actually pass. And
right,
so we've kind of prepared for that day,
right.
whenever it's going to come. We've walked through it plenty of times astrally, kind of,
Mhm.
as you said, in a meditative state, and
Right.
really gotten them ready to, like, not be in fear, not
Yeah,
be worried, not feel like they're abandoning anybody, so if
right.
there's any relationships that need repairing, that also happens towards the end, and wound counseling, and really getting to the root of, or rather, start to understand why this disease and what the lesson of having that disease is teaching them at that time can
Yeah,
also bring a lot of peace to the soul, I
yeah.
find.
I find it so important to get
Mhm.
them to that inner peace so they can
Yeah.
pass with grace and ease. Yeah,
Mhm.
love it. Oh,
Yeah.
we have another question. Those who pass using yes or no questions and a light.
So is that like a Ouija board? Is that what that means? Like yes, no, and then asking for confirmation from a light? Was that?
Mm. Yes, tell us, Victoria.
Yes.
I think we could communicate any way,
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah.
No, she said, no, not with the Ouija board.
So I think, yes, I think it's definitely possible to ask yes or no questions. What I find even more powerful, though, is to ask more in-depth questions
Yeah,
and then allow your intuition to receive that, and not judge the thoughts that are coming in. To
right.
really like listen, and if it's very fear-based, that's your ego.
Yep.
But if it's intuitive and you feel it like in your heart, like, whoa, that was a real message,
Yeah,
then that's truth.
yeah. She says, coming through to me with light.
So I find spirit is gonna get your attention in whatever way you feel comfortable to receive that. And so if you were to see a full form figure, that might be very emotional for some people. They might not be ready to handle it. But lights, sounds, music, right? Like you're listening to a song on the radio and it's all of a sudden your favorite song that you listened to them with is playing, and then you look at the clock and it's their birthday, or
Yeah, yeah,
you start to think of them. Like that's also how spirit communicates.
yeah,
It's just whatever you're open to, I found.
yeah, definitely. I have mentoring a 10-year-old, and he said, "Well, when I see them in my room, what do I do?" I said, "Ask them, who are they?" And he was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I never even thought of that." Like,
Yeah, as
you
if they're a real person standing
know?
in front of you. Be polite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd she write? It is real. The confirmation for me that I am capable. You are capable,
Mm,
love. I've been telling
yes.
you that. You are capable. Say it out loud. I am capable. You are amazing. We're all amazing and magical, right? Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, we all have these abilities. This is
every
not,
single one of us.
it's not some, I think people think like, "Oh, when I take this class or when I do this thing or when I have that experience, then I'll be ready, or then I'll be X, Y, and Z."
Right,
Like you're ready when you feel ready to serve, but some people don't have to serve. Some people
right,
just can receive the messages and feel them for what they are and help in whatever way they can. Maybe pass on that message to a loved one or just know it for their own validation, you
Right.
know?
Beautiful. Love it. What else advice do you have for anybody who's starting to awaken and
Mhm.
come into this spiritual world?
My best advice is to not give up at the first sign of conflict. I think that, or like, I find with a lot of people that do certain trainings and mentorships that the first time they're hit with the challenge, they're like, oh, that's spirit's way of telling me I'm not meant to do this.
Ah,
And or like, oh,
yeah,
that's this. Oh, that's total confirmation for me. I'm not supposed to be on this path.
right.
But I think really, again, that's our egos kind of preventing us from the growth. Our
Yeah.
egos are super comfortable where they are, might not like change. Um, and so don't run from triggers or allow them to control the outcome and how you present yourself to the world and how you serve your magic and your unique medicine. And instead, really allow that trigger to transform you
Yeah.
and move through you and like awaken new things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said before, you know, don't do it through fear. Do it
Yeah.
through love. Do it through
Hmm.
love. Yeah. It's so important. And it's all lessons, how are
Yeah.
you going to react to, seeing a dead person, like,
Right. Right.
you know,
And are we going to push it away? Are we going to, you know,
embrace
there's
it.
so many things that we can revert back to in our life, our own conditionings and programmings. But I think a lot of times, spirit, the universe, God, whatever word you want to use for that, gives us certain tests of faith, of devotion, of, okay, are you going to stay committed? Are you going to stay on this path? Or are you just going to run and repeat the same cycles that you've been repeating?
Right. Yeah, it's so important to embrace it.
Yeah.
I've been, on this ride too. So every time I get something, I'm like, okay, let me look into that. Let me
Yes.
accomplish it. And every time I get a sign, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I just keep, you know, building up that tool chest of all these
Hmm.
magical things that I could help people do and I do, and it's just trusting and believing and flowing with
Yes.
love.
Yes. And I think it's very important that you said that even as people that have been in service for a long time or seasoned practitioners or people
Right,
that have been in the healing industry or field for X amount of years, we still go through challenges and
right,
those, times when we're really confused and we're in our lack and limitation and we're feeling doubt and fear. Like, we're not immune to that.
right,
We just remember our practices maybe a little bit faster than the people who are kind of on the fence, kind of still fighting with their ego so
right.
intensely, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I actually got a message today from a person that she had a dream about me last night, and I was holding her hand, and somebody
Oh,
was sitting next to me that she recognized. And I kept saying in her dream, I have you, hold my hand, you can get through this. And she was like scared because she didn't know what she was going through. And I kept saying to her in her dream, um, just relax into it, breathe into it. I've got you,
mhm.
And so she texted me this morning and I explained to her, you got to feel it to heal it. You got to
Yes.
not to be afraid of it because it's coming up for a reason,
Yeah.
to be healed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not for us to suffer. That I
Right.
don't think spirit or God or the universe ever wants us to suffer. I think our love state, I think, is our pure state, but we constantly question that and place all these other expectations and
Right.
impositions on it, but yeah, I think that we have to go through hard shit sometimes to remember how powerful we are,
Oh,
to
yeah.
remember how worthy we are, how valuable our light and our energy is. That's so personal to us,
Yeah. And
So,
it's like
yeah, I
waves. It's
totally.
like, yeah, it's like a roller coaster,
Mhm.
they test you constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Loved ones have come through, but yet trusting is a big issue. How do you trust when I feel or know if it's ego or real?
Mm. So, yeah, I think that goes back to if there's real fear there and you feel like you are imparting that fear on the messages that you receive, to just sit with that a little bit longer. And if you try to push away that fear, where's the truth? And if it's still that same message, maybe it is a message that's a real warning. Sometimes things come in with what we perceive to be aggression, but it's actually a spirit with urgency, and kind
Yeah,
of, hey, you need to pay attention,
yeah,
but I think that in terms of family members coming through and loved ones, most of the time they're coming through because they have some message for you to receive that you can receive because you're so close with them,
yeah,
right? And I found in my practice and working with especially ancestors, we always think that, or it's a big thing in the spiritual field to be like, oh, we have to heal our ancestors, we have to do the work for them, which in some part what we do ripples to them.
yeah,
But I think we should start shifting that conversation to, they're already healed, they're already liberated because they crossed that rainbow bridge,
yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah,
already light and love. They're just reminding us, you know not to repeat their mistakes, to
yeah.
remember their path and not to walk it as they did, to walk our own.
Right. And it's important that we save ourselves, heal ourselves,
Yes.
and trust yourself. Kathy. So fun. I love it.
Yeah, and
Beautiful.
easier said than done, with the
Yeah,
trust,
it's
but it takes time. It's a
practice.
practice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah. And
for
if you
sure.
do the work every single day, even if something comes up, know that you can start fresh at the next moment,
Yes.
the new beginning, right?
Yes.
Beautiful. Gotcha.
Ooh,
Uh, so,
awesome.
any other advice for anybody in particular?
Hmm.
Feel anything that you have a message to give to anyone?
Hmm. I think what's kind of coming through is for people that feel like they need another book, another training, another mentor, another class, another session, another whatever, fill in the blank. Start in silence with your hand somewhere on your body and ask the same questions that you're looking to ask that teacher, that mentor, that person that you perceive to be superior or on a pedestal. Ask yourself those questions and wait to receive it from your higher self, your most evolved self,
Yeah,
because we have all of the answers that we need. Yes, I believe sometimes we do need that guidance and that connection with other people to like validate and confirm that,
right.
but feel in your body what is what are you actually seeking? And do you need to go outside of yourself to seek that? And sometimes the answer is yes. For some people, it is. And if it is, find somebody that you really resonate with and vibe with and you feel safe with. But if it's no, how can you support yourself? How can you make yourself feel more safe in your own body
Yeah.
on days where things get hard, on days where there's challenges? What tools are you going to implement in your life to be there as that toolkit that you can just say, oh, look at that. I needed this today. Oh, actually, I needed that, and create that for yourself. Doesn't have to look like anybody else's toolkit,
That's right.
but do something for yourself that brings out your own inner strength, because that's going to help you shine. Oh, if you keep doing it over and over again, that's the thing that's going to make you radiant and beautiful and different from every other person, stepping outside that collective, right, and into that individual self.
Beautiful. Yes, you're singing
Woo.
it, baby. Singing it. I love it.
Yes.
Ah, so much fun. So we have your website up there,
Beautiful.
sistersoul.net, your Instagram at _sistersoul. So, and her website is beautiful. I looked at it. She has so many beautiful offerings. So
Thank you.
definitely reach out to this beautiful goddess, warrior, priestess, shaman. Your list goes on and on. Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing and honor to serve with you, love.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me here. I just now have been getting a deja vu. Just at the end when you were saying that, it was like, yes, this was meant to happen. So thank you for that.
You are so welcome, and I am so honored to, love. Thank you,
Thank you.
goddesses. Thank you,
Woo!
goddesses, for
Thank
watching
you.
and asking so many amazing questions. Again, if you have any other things that you need to ask, reach out. We
Yeah.
love you. So much fun.
Thank
And
you.
always be yourselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I hope everybody loves themselves and make sure you are happy with who you are, exactly how you are at this moment right now. Yay! Namaste.
Namaste. Many blessings.
Yes.
This is the moment we've been waiting for. Feel the right in the world of that for sure.